Welcome everybody to my HTC VIVE Cosmos review here on MANvsVR. Today we are going to be discussing my experience with the HTC VIVE Cosmos after a full dedicated week of using the headset. But before we get started, I want to let you guys know what it was I was expecting before jumping into the new headset. The first, of course, being the low battery life. This is due to the LEDs that are on the controllers for the tracking source and, of course, the good old internet. Second being tracking issues. Pretty much every consumer headset has dealt with some sort of tracking issues at launch, especially the inside-out tracking headsets. Another thing I'm expecting is software compatibility issues. A reason for this being, of course, this is the first HTC headset that is not partnering with Valve technology in order to operate in VR. And then, of course, thanks to the LCD panels, we're expecting washed out colors, grayed out blacks, and of course super clear visuals. Now for the experience with the headset. The first thing I want to go over in this review are of course the controllers and the battery life. Now this is because of some rumors that appeared on the internet prior to launch, and of course this was one thing that of course I myself would have been dreading if true, so I had to check it out. Now the original in-the-box batteries that came with the entire system actually lasted a lot longer than the rumored 2 hours that began circulating the web in September. I was actually able to get about 13 hours out of the batteries before switching to new ones. Batteries technically weren't even dead yet, but I went ahead and switched them out because they were down to the final red bar and a little notification kept popping up saying that batteries were low. Not gonna lie, it was kind of annoying. Each controllers take 2 AA batteries and they're pretty easy to swap out due to the little piece of cloth provided to go under the batteries when they're in place. Now this was definitely something I was glad to see, as I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit of a pain to switch out the batteries in my touch controllers and my Windows Mixed Reality. They also have this really nice clip-in system to where they don't slide out on you like the touch controllers and the Windows controllers while playing games like Beat Saber or even when using a lightsaber in Lightsaber Dojo. The controllers themselves are definitely heavier than the touch controllers and take up more space in your hand. Honestly, this never once bothered me during any of my long play sessions during the week. My arms never felt tired or fatigued, and to be honest, once in game, it never even bothered me. The button placements all feel great, the thumbstick works and clicks as intended right out of the box. One thing I'm not sure of is the purpose of the bumpers above the triggers, but I hope there are some plans for these, but at the time, they essentially serve no purpose. Now with that being said, I definitely say the controllers are a huge step up from the original Vive ones, which were riddled with technical difficulties and of course that trackpad that everybody seemed to have issues with. Me personally, I welcome the controllers with open arms, and not only that, but I really don't mind how they fit in my hand when being used. That's really all I have to say about the controllers though. Let's go ahead and get on to the next thing. Next thing I want to talk about is the Vive Origin Space. Now for me, this was something I was personally excited to check out when it was announced back in September. But after experiencing it one time, there's really nothing new it offers or provides to draw you back in. There's a remote control car that you can drive around and change the skybox within the space. There's a little informational spot, but unfortunately there's no way to interact with the items being discussed. There's also a little marker to play with that lets you draw in the air, similar to like Tilt Brush. Once you go into the living area, you can put on a virtual Cosmos, which lets you see through the RGB cameras in black and white. And then next to it there is also a Vive Pro that you can put on to see a colored outline version of the real space like the Pro and the original Vive provide. Other than that, there's nothing new it really provides to set it apart from the other home spaces like Oculus, Steam, and Mixed Reality. Although, I did find a lot of satisfying options available in the Vive software settings. Like my favorite one, the display mode option. This lets you switch between normal mode, night mode, and vivid mode on the LCD panels. Enable or disable the pass-through cameras. You can adjust your height in the virtual space. You can also adjust the Vive lens placement in front of you, edit your boundary settings, and even change your camera pass-through settings. The lens itself also allows you to access your games library, including your Steam games. You can access your Viveport games and browse the games available through Viveport Infinity program if you want to check those out too. So unlike the Oculus Rift S and the Oculus Quest, the HTC Cosmos is using RGB cameras to track its position, which is an odd choice, I admit, but it does make for a cool pass-through experience. But with that being said, it does worry me about how the future of the tracking will improve. Due to this method of tracking, not only could lighting prove to be an issue, but also certain type of room layouts. Now I will go ahead and say that my normal play area tracks really well. So what I did was I built up a white wall room using cotton sheets to give myself as basic of a play space as possible. Yes, I know, no one's going to be playing their Cosmos between 4 sheets, but for me, this was the easiest way to get access to a plain room to really test the tracking in as basic of a room as possible. And as expected, I actually ran into multiple issues. I even tried adding things to the room for reference with no luck. The Cosmos just simply wouldn't let me set my floor in the VR space. So then I tried testing the Rift S in the same space with no reference points, and of course it tracked it flawlessly. So then I went back to the Cosmos and I tried it again. This time I was able to get it working in the white wall test space with just a light in the corner, a trash can on one wall, and a big picture against the wall for reference. Not sure what was causing it to have issues before, but now that it was working, I felt a bit of relief. But I still think it has a ways to go before catching up to the already existing inside-out tracking headsets. So after I tested the pass-through camera with the controllers, of course we loaded up some Beat Saber. To my surprise, I was able to complete an expert song I had not been able to complete before. Which was definitely a good sign for the tracking so far. But again, that doesn't mean the tracking is perfect just yet. After going back to my normal everyday play space, I once again test the tracking through the RGB cameras and having the virtual controllers visible. So now, we gotta run this Cosmos through some more tests. One game I've always enjoyed playing in VR is Golf Club VR. So I launched it up, and I tested how well the controllers could track a high-speed swing that would have to transition through multiple tracking cameras. Fortunately, as you can see on the screen, it wasn't very successful. No matter what, I couldn't hit the ball far enough with a normal golf-like swing. But I did find it that if I used just a quick wrist flick, the ball would go further than my normal swing method. So tracking in a scenario like this is definitely going to have some issues, and hopefully this gets fixed soon. The next test I ran with the tracking was shooting a gun in Pavlov. So I took a gun to the range area, and as expected, there was definitely some occlusion issues when aiming down sights. This was much similar to my experience when the Odyssey first dropped. And honestly guys, sniping with the controllers was next to impossible, which is such a sad thing to run into because it basically makes the Pavlov unplayable on Cosmos at the moment unless you only want to use a pistol. The next game I fired up was another one of my current favorites, Until You Fall, which actually ended up working out really well after setting up the bindings for the controller. As you can see, the combat works and all the other functions operate as expected, which was a relief since it failed both previous tests on two games I enjoy quite a bit. I was able to dash, block, and hit my targets as expected and enjoy the game like I usually would. Now the next game I tested on the Cosmos was Tilt Brush. I really wanted to see the tracking range on the Cosmos with the inside-out tracking along with the accuracy of it as well. And honestly, I couldn't think of a better way to test the headset's tracking path ability, so I attempted to trace all the typical movements in VR someone may possibly make while playing games that would give an inside-out tracking device issues. While there are definitely some dead spots in the tracking, I didn't come across as many issues as I had anticipated. The tracking seemed to be able to pull off pretty much every move that I threw at it. But this still doesn't help the fact that you can't put controllers in front of each other to play two-handed shooters. Definitely a huge letdown, but I was impressed to see the range of tracking on the headset itself. The next test I wanted to do was the Revive test. Now with the controller layout being so close to the Oculus Touch, I was really excited to see how well the game could emulate the controllers on an Oculus home game. So I fired up some Vader Immortal Episode 2, hopped into the lightsaber dojo, and gave it a go. Everything worked great. I was able to throw my saber, rotate with the thumbstick, and use the force all as expected. The visuals looked really good using the Vivid option through the Vive software. I was definitely relieved to see the Cosmos pass this test, as I'm a huge fan of Revive and checking out the different games available on Oculus with different headsets. Quick warning, I have not tested everything I have on Oculus with the Cosmos through Revive, but I will be doing that here soon. I gotta say though, so far, this is a good sign. Now on to the Viveport game service. When it comes to the games available on the Viveport service, I was actually pretty impressed with the lineup. Thanks to Viveport's Xbox Game Pass-like service that comes with the Cosmos, I was able to experience some VR games that I'd never gotten to experience before. This is due to either never getting around to picking it up, or I didn't even know they existed in general. There's a lot of games available, and I'm really pumped to try out a bunch more titles available on the service. I'd have to say this is probably one of the biggest highlights of my Cosmos experience, and I really hope to see this service catch on and continue offering access to great VR titles. If you're just getting to VR and you're getting your first headset, I definitely recommend checking out Viveport. Especially at $9.99 a month, it's a great way to gain access to a large library of great titles available in VR. Now I want to talk about the headset itself. The overall look of the Cosmos is miles better than the original HTC Vive. Everything from the front plate to the halo strap is an improvement when it comes to how it looks. Although I was always partial to the deluxe audio strap, I am glad to see a similar style of headphones carried over to the built-in audio on the Cosmos. As for the headphones themselves, they're pretty much the same experience you get quality-wise from the deluxe audio strap. Nothing groundbreaking, but still good enough quality to add to the immersion and drown out the real-world sounds. When it comes to the halo strap on the Cosmos, for me personally, I felt it to be the most comfortable fit and closest to the PSVR's comfort. When wearing the Samsung Odyssey, I had to wear it more like a crown just to have a comfortable experience. The Rift S is definitely a contender for this spot though. It was much more comfortable than the Odyssey, but sometimes I'd still get a weird pressure pain in the back of my head. And unfortunately, the way it's designed, I couldn't wear it like I do the Samsung Odyssey to see if I'd have an even more enjoyable experience. As for the flip-up mechanism on the Cosmos, I never thought I'd use it, but after having it for a week, it's one of the few things I appreciate the most out of the headset. So when I had my CV1, and of course on my original Vive, when I'm wearing it, I can just kind of prop it on top of my forehead like a ball cap because of the way that the head straps were designed. On the Rift S, I cannot do this because it wants to slide down. Same thing goes for the Samsung Odyssey. Definitely get more visual clearance than the Windows headsets that use the flip-up mechanism, which basically made it to where you could only look down and not directly in front of you. Unfortunately though, not all is good and glory for the headset itself. While yes, the field of view is larger than my Rift S, the sweet spot on the Cosmos is actually pretty small, which could definitely cause problems for the visuals if it's not being worn correctly. As to where with the Rift S, even if you're wearing that thing wrong, as long as you have your IPD settings done correctly, as soon as you put it on, you're getting those crisp, clear visuals. So my first night with the Cosmos, I really found myself adjusting and readjusting the headset a lot when putting it on and playing throughout the games. But after correctly adjusting the top strap on the Cosmos, I've pretty much got it down to where as soon as I put the headset on, I'm right in the sweet spot. One thing I love about the headset though is the length of the cord. Even though this thing is going to have a wireless option in the near future, I was really glad that the cord was long enough for me to take advantage of my entire Playspace in VR. When using the Rift S or the Samsung Odyssey, I will get that dreaded cord tug when getting about halfway across my Playspace in VR, which, kind of sucks. So honestly, prior to the Cosmos, the only other headset that would let me gain full access to my entire Playspace was, of course, my original Vive. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing and that I don't like the Vive, but all I'm saying is who doesn't want to play with their new toys? So this was definitely something I was glad to see remain in the Vive lineup. Having a large space for VR makes for such a great VR experience and really adds to the immersion as you're less likely to hit those chaperone bounds. But I guess now it's to the ultimate question. Is the Cosmos worth $300 more than its closest competitor? I'll be honest, I can't even answer that question for you. It all comes down to what you're looking for in a headset. Do you want something that works right out of the box and has a minimal setup time? Get a Rift S. Or do you want something that in time should and hopefully track just as well as the competitor, but also leaves you to the ability to upgrade the tracking source, add wireless, or other possible modular upgrades, along with instant access to a bunch of great VR titles that are already out and upcoming? Then get a Cosmos. All I can say is the headset itself is working great on my end, aside from, the controller in front of the controller issue. Honestly, I'm happy with it. But as my test showed earlier, it's not guaranteed at the moment to work in every environment. So definitely keep that in mind when making your decision. All I can say is the visuals are great, the controllers have a decent battery life, and the headset is comfortable to wear for a long period of time, and it's got built-in audio. With that said, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed the video. Now that we're done dedicating all the time to testing this thing out, it's going to be back to the regular scheduled programming. But I'm out of here. Peace.